There is a kind of loneliness that does not look like loneliness from the outside. It does not look like an empty apartment. It does not look like eating alone on a Friday night. It does not look like the things people imagine when they think of a woman who is by herself. It looks like a house with 2 cars in the driveway. It looks like a family photo on the wall. It looks like a woman sitting across from someone at dinner who has stopped trying to start a conversation because she already knows how it will go. She already knows he will answer in 3 words or less. She already knows his eyes will drift back to the screen. She already knows the moment will pass like it always passes, and she will sit there, full of things she wanted to say, and quietly put them away again. That is the loneliness no one talks about, the kind that lives inside a marriage, the kind that does not have a name until you are finally brave enough to say it out loud. If you have ever known that feeling, this video is for you. My name is Mama Amelia, and today we are going to talk about something that so many women have carried in silence for so long. The loneliness of being in a relationship and still feeling completely invisible. We are going to talk about how it starts, how it grows, how it becomes the air you breathe without realizing it. And we are going to talk about what it means when a marriage ends. Not because something dramatic happened, but because 2 people had been living in separate worlds for years, and one of them finally stopped pretending that was okay. I want you to know something before we begin. If any part of what I say today lands somewhere deep in your chest, that is not a coincidence. That is recognition. And recognition is the first thing that starts to heal you. Let us start at the beginning, because it never begins the way people think it begins. It does not begin with a fight. It does not begin with a betrayal. It does not begin with a single moment you can point to and say, that is where it all went wrong. It begins quietly. It begins with a small thing, a story you told that they did not really listen to, a fear you shared that they brushed off a little too quickly, a hard day you had that they did not ask about, and you told yourself it was nothing. You told yourself everyone has days like that. You told yourself this is just what long-term relationships look like. People get busy. People get tired. People stop asking the questions they asked in the beginning. That is normal. That is just life. So you adjusted. You stopped leading with the vulnerable things. You stopped sharing the fears first. You learned to read the room before you said anything real. You became a little smaller, not all at once, just a little, just enough to fit more comfortably into the space you were given. And then it happened again. Another day where you needed something and it was not there. Another moment where you reached and came back empty. Another night where you lay beside someone and felt like you were the only person in the room. And again you told yourself it was nothing. But here is the thing about small things. They accumulate, they stack, they settle into the floor of you like sediment, quiet and invisible, until one day you realize the floor has risen. And the room you used to stand in freely feels like it barely has enough space to breathe. No one tells you that loneliness inside a marriage does not announce itself. It arrives like water rising slowly in a room you thought was safe. By the time you notice it, you are already standing in it, and you have been for longer than you realize. Let me tell you about something I call the slow disappearing, because it happens to so many women, and it happens so gradually that most of them do not even see it happening to themselves. It starts with the small adjustments I already described. The way you learn to make yourself smaller in certain conversations. The way you stop bringing up certain topics because you already know they will go nowhere. The way you begin to manage your own emotional needs privately, because you have learned that asking for them to be met feels like too much to ask. And then slowly, those adjustments become habits, and habits become identity. And one day, you look in the mirror and realize you are not entirely sure who you are anymore. Outside of the role you play inside this house, you are someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's partner, someone who keeps things running, someone who holds things together. But the woman you were before all of this, the one who had opinions that felt important, the one who had dreams she talked about out loud, the one who laughed differently, the one who felt like herself. Where did she go? She did not leave. She was just quietly asked to make room. And she did, because that is what she was taught love looks like. Making room, adjusting, being understanding, not making things harder than they need to be. But love was never supposed to ask you to disappear. Let me tell you what emotional loneliness inside a marriage actually is. Because it is not just about feeling sad. It is not just about wishing your partner talked more. It is a specific kind of pain that comes from being seen, but not truly known. There is a difference between being seen and being known. Being seen means someone can describe you. They know your name. They know what you look like. They know your routines. They know what you order at restaurants. Being known is something else entirely. Being known means someone holds space for the interior of you. They know what keeps you up at night. They know what you are afraid of losing. They know the version of you that shows up when no one is watching. They know the wound underneath the behavior. They know the dream underneath the silence. Emotional loneliness inside a marriage is the gap between those two things. It is living with someone who can describe you perfectly and still not know you at all. And what makes it so painful, what makes it so particularly quiet and suffocating, is that from the outside, everything looks fine. People look at your life and they see the house. They see the stability. They see the years. They see what looks like partnership. And so you cannot explain the loneliness without feeling like you are complaining about something you should be grateful for. You feel guilty for wanting more. You feel ungrateful for needing something that looks like it should already be enough. You feel dramatic for naming a pain that does not come with bruises or betrayal. But let me say this clearly. Emotional neglect is real. Being invisible inside a relationship is real. The grief of being unseen by the person who promised to see you is one of the heaviest griefs a woman can carry. And you are not dramatic for feeling it. You are not ungrateful. You are not asking for too much. You are asking for the thing that love was supposed to be. I want to talk about a specific kind of moment, a moment that so many women have described in almost exactly the same way. It is not a big moment. There is no dramatic scene, no fight, no revelation, no single event you can point to. It is just a Tuesday, or a Wednesday, or a Sunday evening, and something small happens. Maybe you share something that mattered to you, and they respond to the least important part of what you said. Maybe you start a sentence, and you can see in their eyes that they are already somewhere else. Maybe you laugh at something and turn to share the moment, and realize they did not even notice. And something shifts. Not dramatically, not loudly, just quietly, like a door you had been keeping open, finally closing. You do not cry. You do not say anything. You just stop. And later that night, you lie in bed beside them. and you feel something you do not have a name for yet, something that is not sadness exactly, not anger, not disappointment, something older than all of that, something that feels like the quiet acceptance of a truth you have been fighting for years. You are alone. You have been alone, and the person next to you has no idea. Some women live inside that moment for years. Some live inside it for decades. Not because they are weak, not because they do not know what they deserve, but because leaving is never as simple as people who have not been inside a marriage will tell you it is. There are children. There is shared history. There are financial realities. There are families who will not understand. There is the version of yourself who once believed in this so completely. There is the grief of admitting that the story you told yourself about your life needs to be rewritten. Staying is not stupidity. Staying is not weakness. Staying is what a person does when the cost of leaving feels higher than the cost of staying invisible. And for a long time, for many women, it is. But there comes a point that is different for every woman, where the cost of staying invisible becomes higher than the cost of finally being seen. And that is when things begin to change. Let us talk about divorce, not the legal process, not the logistics, not the paperwork. Let us talk about what divorce actually is emotionally, because it is almost never what people think it is. Most people assume divorce is about falling out of love. They assume it is about hatred, about betrayal, about some definitive breaking point where everything became irreparable. But for many women, divorce is about something quieter than that. It is about the slow accumulation of invisible wounds. It is about the morning you made 2 cups of coffee out of habit and realized the second one had been going cold for years. It is about finally deciding that being truly alone is better than being lonely inside a room with someone else. And here is the thing no one prepares you for. When you finally leave, when you finally step out of that marriage, you do not feel relief first. You feel grief. Real, heavy, complicated grief. Not because you made the wrong choice. Not because you miss the person. Not because part of you wants to go back, but because you are grieving something that is very hard to name. You are grieving the version of yourself who walked into that marriage with so much hope. You are grieving the life you thought you were going to have. You are grieving the years, not the marriage itself, but the years you cannot get back, the years you spent adjusting and shrinking and making yourself smaller, the years you spent being quietly invisible. That grief is real. It deserves to be honored. It deserves to be sat with. It deserves to be named. And it does not mean you made the wrong choice. Grief and the right decision can exist at the same time. In fact, the grief you feel after leaving a marriage that made you invisible is proof that you mattered, proof that you cared, proof that you were fully in it. The grief is not a sign that you failed. The grief is the evidence of how much you gave. I also want to talk about something that many women feel after divorce, that they are almost ashamed to admit. Relief, not relief that the other person is gone. Not relief in the cold, cruel sense, but a quiet, almost startling sense of space. The relief of finally being able to eat what you want for dinner without negotiating. The relief of being able to leave the light on when you want to read. The relief of a Saturday morning that belongs entirely to you. The relief of being lonely on your own terms. There is a huge difference between the loneliness of being invisible inside a marriage and the solitude of being alone by choice. The loneliness of an unhappy marriage is involuntary. It is the loneliness of being unseen by someone who is supposed to see you. It is the loneliness of needing something and consistently not receiving it. It is hollow. It is suffocating. It shrinks you. The solitude of being on your own is something different entirely. It is the loneliness you chose, the loneliness that does not come with the added sting of being overlooked, the loneliness that leaves room for you to remember who you are. And many women, after divorce, describe something they did not expect. They describe feeling more like themselves than they have in years. Not right away, not without pain, but slowly, in the quiet mornings, in the long walks they started taking, in the friendships they had let go quiet and began to tend again, in the things they started doing just because they wanted to. They did not find themselves again all at once. They found themselves in pieces, small returns of the woman they used to know, a preference they had forgotten they had, a feeling of humor that had been buried under years of trying, a sense of direction that had been waiting patiently for the room to be clear enough to show itself. And slowly, slowly, they came back. The woman who had been invisible for so long, she came back, not as who she was before. She was never going to be that person again. Too much had changed. Too much had been learned. Too much had been survived. But as someone new, someone who had walked through the particular fire of being unseen and had come out the other side knowing her own worth in a way that no one could ever take from her again. I want to speak now directly to the woman who is still inside this, still inside a marriage that makes her feel invisible, still sitting at that table with the second cup going cold, still lying awake beside someone, full of things she stopped trying to say. I am not here to tell you what to do. I am not here to tell you to leave, or to stay, or to give you a 5-step plan. I am here to tell you that what you are feeling is real. The loneliness you carry is real. The grief of being unseen by someone who promised to see you is real. And you are not dramatic. You are not ungrateful. You are not broken. You are a woman who has been giving more than she has been receiving for a long time. And the exhaustion you feel, the quiet despair of another day that looks fine from the outside, that is the weight of an invisible load, and it is okay to name it. It is okay to say out loud, to yourself, even if to no one else, this is not what I wanted. This is not what love was supposed to feel like. I deserve to be known. Saying that is not betrayal. Saying that is the beginning. And to the woman who has already left, who is in the middle of the grief and the relief and the disorientation of rebuilding, I want you to know this. What you are navigating right now is one of the hardest things a person can do. Not just leaving a marriage, but leaving a version of yourself, stepping out of a life you built and a story you believed in, and beginning from the ground up to figure out who you are now. That is not failure. That is one of the most courageous things a human being can do. The loneliness you feel right now is different from the loneliness you left behind. This loneliness is not invisible. This loneliness is honest. And honest loneliness is something you can work with. It will not always feel this way. The mornings will get easier, not all at once, but slowly, one morning at a time, you will start to recognize yourself again in small things. A laugh that sounds like yours, a decision that feels clear, a day that felt like it belonged to you. And slowly, slowly, you will understand something that took everything to learn. Being alone is not the worst thing. Being invisible is. And you are not invisible anymore. You are here. You are seen, and you are going to be okay. Thank you for spending this time with me. If any part of today's video landed somewhere true for you, please know that you are not alone in it. Leave a comment below, not because you have to have the words perfectly, just because sometimes the most healing thing we can do is let someone know we were here. We heard. We felt it too. I will see you in the next one. Take good care of yourself. You deserve that.